What's up, everybody? It's the Benchwarmers, and today we're starting a series where we'll go into each draft prospect in much more detail so that you guys, our viewers, can learn a lot more about these players. So we're to talk about their come up and their role as an NBA prospect. So now, with all that said, let's get started with our first overall pick, projected, CADE Cunningham.
On September 25th, 2001, CADE Cunningham was born to Keith and Carrie Cunningham as the youngest of three children. As a young child, he loved playing football and played quarterback on his youth teams. One day, he saw his brother playing basketball in a college game at SMU and became fascinated by the sport. He started playing more basketball and eventually drifted away from football. Fast forward to high school, and as a freshman at Bowie, he immediately became their best varsity player while averaging 15 points per game. Despite an injury as a sophomore, he had a solid season with almost 19 points per game. As a junior, he transferred to Montverde Academy, which had one of the best basketball programs in the nation, and continued to dominate on the court with 11 points, 5.7 assists, and 5.5 rebounds per game that season.
For his senior year of high school, at just 17 years old, Cunningham represented Team USA at the Under-19 Basketball World Cup, which they ended up winning. He averaged 11.7 points, 4.9 rebounds, and 5.7 assists on a decent 40.7% shooting, and even led the team in scoring in the final against Mali with 21 points. Then in his senior year, he led Montverde to a 25-0 record in his averaging 14, 4, and 6. After a successful high school, Cunningham committed to Oklahoma State as the #1 high school prospect according to 24/7 Sports and Rival. He was even better in college than he was in high school, as he averaged 20.1, 6.2, and 3.5, shooting a very impressive 40% from three. He led Oklahoma State to the finals of the Big 12 tournament, shocking Baylor in the semifinals, but unfortunately losing to Texas in the finals. In March Madness, Oklahoma State was upset by Oregon State in the second round, but CADE Cunningham still ended up winning Big 12 Freshman of the Year and Big 12 Player of the Year, becoming just the fourth player to ever do so.
CADE Cunningham projects really well as he looks to enter the NBA. Being 6'8" and 225 pounds at the point guard spot, he will immediately become one of the biggest, strongest guards in the NBA. Although he is built like a forward, he is one of the most poised ball handlers at his age. He commands control of the pace and is a very dynamic passer. However, his greatest asset is his ability as a scorer. He is a true three-level scorer, and his size advantage will assist him in facilitating the transition as a scorer in the NBA. He can easily drive and finish at the rim like Ben Simmons when he wants to score. He heavily relied on short mid-range jumpers and connected on them at a solid rate in high school. And throughout the last few years, he has rapidly improved his three-point shooting, from shooting 7% at FIBA in 2019 to shooting 40% in college this past year at Oklahoma State. Right now, he is an average defender, but with his physical attributes, it's easy to see that he can develop into an above-average defender, and he can probably defend the 1 through 4 positions, making him very versatile on that end. Overall, he is an excellent leader and has a great attitude, and he can be the centerpiece of a franchise moving forward, which is why he is projected to be the first overall pick in this year's NBA draft.
Now that we've discussed his background, we'll go into some more depth on a discussion and talking about some major aspects that may affect CADE Cunningham in the upcoming draft. So Aki sort of discussed some of his strengths, so I'm going to talk about his weaknesses. So he's honestly a really good player, and it was hard to find his weaknesses. But one major weakness is how he has size and he has decent athleticism, but it's not elite. And I think one player that's comparable to this is Luka. And a lot of people are doubting Luka because he didn't have elite athleticism. But if you look at him now, he really improved that athleticism, and he has the size to do really well. So I think this isn't a major weakness. Another weakness is how he's a good facilitator, but his off-ball movement is poor, and this is how he just runs around and gets open or fights through screens and gets open for shots. He's just not that good at that, and it's something that he needs to improve on. Another thing is how he has many turnovers. He averaged 4 per game in college, but this is true of any guard in the NBA. So as long as he can control this a little bit more, it shouldn't be an issue. And finally, those were all his weaknesses. So these were some pretty minor ones, and it was honestly hard to find weaknesses. but I think these are still some factors to take into account when looking at his NBA future.
Now I'm going to talk about how he projects in the NBA, and specifically with the Detroit Pistons, who do have the #1 overall pick and are very, very likely to take him. I think in the betting odds, he currently has around a 99% chance to be taken by the Pistons at #1 overall. I think he makes a lot of sense for them because we saw last year that the rookie Killian Hayes kind of struggled in his starter role at point guard. He just isn't developed enough. He doesn't have a good enough shot to be starting. So I think he will be a great bench piece for them, whereas CADE Cunningham can fill the starting role at point guard. However, it doesn't really make sense for them to start together at 1 and 2, just because they're both kind of primary ball handlers, and none of them really make sense as a shooting guard, because obviously CADE Cunningham kind of needs the ball in order to be successful, and Killian Hayes just really wasn't a very good shooter in his rookie season. So I think CADE Cunningham will probably become the main starting guard for the Pistons, and he also will probably succeed because he's in kind of a low pressure situation, playing for a small market team that everyone kind of knows is not expected to do very well. So even if he doesn't perform super well in his rookie season, there's not going to be too much criticism for him, hopefully.
And with that, we're going to talk about his player comparisons. There have been several players throughout the past 20, 30 years who have had similar games to CADE Cunningham, but CADE Cunningham is truly a unique prospect. I think that the best player comparison is a young Penny Hardaway from the Orlando Magic. As a young guard, Penny Hardaway was a big guard. He was 6'7", 6'8", and he had a lot of similar characteristics as CADE does. If CADE ends up getting the opportunity to be playing with a dominant big, he can definitely turn into a facilitator, but as a standalone player, he is a great scorer and he can create for himself. However, as a more floor and ceiling comparison, I think at worst he's going to turn into a Lonzo Ball type of player, as a good facilitator, a good person who can control the pace, but not that great of a scorer. But at best, he can be even a guy like Oscar Robertson, a truly dynamic 3-level scorer, a big point guard who can play both sides of the ball, and truly a championship contender and an eventual Hall of Fame ticket guaranteed, first ballot. But with that said, that is the end of our video analyzing the growth of CADE Cunningham from a child to where he is right now as a projected #1 overall draft pick. Comment if you liked it, like if you like it, but that's it for us today, the Benchwarmers. We are signing out. See ya.